Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. So in today's card making video, we're going to be making an engagement card using this beautiful Gina K Designs Toss the Bouquet stamp set and this Eileen Hull embossing folder from Sizzix called Lace, which is absolutely beautiful. I did share it recently in a haul video, so today we're going to use it to add some background interest. So first of all, I've took that large floral stamp and I'm just lining it up on my acrylic block, making sure the stem is nice and straight because I've got the coordinating die, so I want to make sure that it cuts it out nice and neatly. We're going to do some heat embossing, so I've just got a piece of white cardstock and I'm just using my anti-static powder bag just to make sure there's no grease marks or finger marks on the cardstock that the embossing powder could stick to. And then I'm taking my Wow Embossing Sticky Ink Pad to just ink up that stamp. And then I'm just going to go ahead and stamp it down, making sure that I've got the whole image on the piece of card and that we've got a good stamped impression. Now I'm using the Wow Polished Gold embossing powder today, and so I'm just going to sprinkle that over the whole panel onto a scrap of paper underneath so that I can tip the excess back into the pot. And then once my heat tool's heated up, I can go ahead and heat set that image from underneath. You can heat set on the top, but if you do heat set from underneath, you get a much smoother embossed finish, and also it means that none of the powder blows around, so you don't get any powder where you don't want it to go. So that's just a little hack. If you struggle with embossing, try heating from underneath. You might find that it just heat sets a little bit better for you. So here's our finished stamped image, and now I'm going to go ahead and watercolour it. Now I have sped this up. This is very basic watercolouring. I'm not a watercolourist. I just find using watercolours gets colour down really nice and quickly. And with the embossing powder, because it's raised, it kind of traps the colour into the leaves and the flowers so that you're not getting any kind of bleed through. And so it really just helps you control that colour and water a little bit better because it's just going to collect in those embossed areas. Now I haven't used watercolour cardstock today. This is just standard Craft UK 300 GSM white card. So I am being careful with the amount of water that I'm adding to my brush. If you did want to use some watercolour cardstock, then you'd want to go for a hot press card that's smooth, that's easy to stamp on if you want to get a decent embossed impression. Watercolour cardstock generally is quite textured, so yeah, that's something to factor in if you're going to try heat embossing on watercolour cardstock. You may just not get a good stamped image if it's not hot pressed and smooth, so something to bear in mind. Of course, you can colour these images with any medium that you prefer to colour with. If you want to use your distress inks with some water, you could do pencil colours, alcohol markers. But yeah, this is just something that I prefer to use when I just want to get some colour down nice and quick. So I've got a piece of 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches white cardstock, and I'm just going to add some texture to it using this gorgeous lace embossing folder from Sizzix. It's an absolute favourite of mine, so I'm sure it's going to feature in quite a few videos with some different ideas and ways to use it. So with this embossing folder, because it's A5, you will need to use an extended platform just because otherwise it just won't go through your machine. It's obviously going to have a lot of pressure, but you can see the embossed image is absolutely beautiful. Now, while I've got my die cut machine handy, I'm going to go ahead and just line up the outline die for the bouquet stamp. And I'm just going to make sure that it's got a nice even white border around the edge of it. And then I'm just going to tack it in place using some mint tape from scrapbook.com. These dies cut absolutely beautiful, and you can see as I remove the excess cardstock and the low tack tape, you get that lovely die cut image ready to be used on our card. Now I'm working on a US A2 card blank today. This is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and I've got it as a top folding card. And I'm going to add a vellum strip for the sentiment. So I've took out 2 of the sentiments from the stamp set. One says congratulations and the other sentiment says on your engagement. And I'm going to use the same polished gold embossing powder for this. So again, I've took my anti-static powder bag. I've inked up the stamp using the Wow Sticky Embossing Ink. And then again, I'm just using that scrap of paper just to tap off the excess powder onto so that we can save that. And I'm just using a paintbrush there just to get off a few little specks that I'd got where I didn't want it. And again, once my heat tool's heated up, I'm going to heat set that from underneath so it's a lovely smooth embossed image. And I really love how the polished gold embossing powder is so smooth and it's a really nice gold. Now the vellum strip is a little bit wider than I'd like, so I'm just going to trim it down to 1¼ inches, just taking a little bit off the top. And then we can go ahead and put the card together. But I've run out of foam tape at the minute, so I'm going to use some white scraps. And this is just a little hack. If you've got lots of white scraps in your stash, this is a cheap way of creating some dimension without having to have double-sided foam tape. So I'm just trimming lots of strips down to be the same size. So these are strips that are going to fit on my card blank. I'm going to go ahead and then just glue them all together with some quick grab glue. I've got the Cosmic Shimmer glue in this bottle at the minute. And then once they're all stuck together, I've got 3 layers of card on each strip, and I can then go ahead and use those to add dimension to the back of my card. So I've just wrapped the vellum around the embossed panel, and I'm just going to make sure that it's nice and level. Add some double-sided adhesive tape just to the back of it to hold it in place. And then when I remove the backing tape, we can then attach one side down, check that they're nice and level, and then go ahead and attach the other side down as well. So I'm just going to add some glue again, the quick grab glue, just to these strips and stick them down onto my panel. If you find they're a little bit longer, just use your scissors and trim them down and make them fit. So just like you would with foam tape, there's no pressure to have them exactly measured to the correct size. You just want to add some dimension to the back here. And then the 2 little smaller bits that I've chopped off, I'm going to add to the middle section, just so that there's no kind of sagging in the middle once the card's stuck down. I'm just going to add some liquid glue all over the back of those, and then we can go ahead and stick that down nice and centrally on our card panel. For the bouquet, I kind of have a little play around with it. I don't know whether I want it over the top of the vellum with the stem kind of hanging over, or whether I want it tucked behind the vellum. And so I just had a little bit of a play around with it, and then once I've decided where I want it, I'm going to do the same again to add some dimension. I've cut a few strips of white card that I've glued together, and then we can just go ahead and stick that down. So this is just a great way. If you've run out of foam tape, use your scraps. It's a great way of using them up. And yeah, I actually find it gave really nice dimension. It was nice and firm, and it made the card feel really solid once it was finished. To finish the card, I'm just adding a few flat back gold gems. I'm just using a wax pencil and some quick grab glue, and then there is the finished card for today. So thank you so much for joining me. As always, I really appreciate the fact that you've took the time to watch this video. Please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment if you've enjoyed this video. It really does help me out, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.